You are half awake in the back of a black town car at 3:16 in the morning, wearing a velvet blazer your mother says is ridiculous for a child and your father says is exactly right for Vegas. Outside the window, the Strip is not sleeping. It is glowing, humming, flashing, laughing, and pretending the night is still young even though the rest of America is already dreaming. Then your father's casino rises in front of you. Not like a building. Like a kingdom with neon for blood. The entrance is washed in gold light. Valets are moving like synchronized magicians. Bellmen glide between limousines and luggage carts. A fountain leaps into the desert air as if water itself got dressed up for the evening. Above the doors, your family name is burning in letters so bright they make the sky look underdressed. Your father steps out first. The doorman straightens. The security captain touches his earpiece. The general manager appears from nowhere with the expression of a man who has been waiting for exactly this moment since lunch. And then your father looks back at you with that little half-smile he only uses when he is about to let you see something most people never get to see. "Come on," he says. And the glass doors open. The casino hits you all at once. Not gently. Not politely. Not in stages. It floods you. Slot machines singing in 100 different tones. Dice bouncing across felt. Cards whispering from dealers' hands. Cocktail trays floating through the crowd. Laughter rising from one table, groans from another, applause from somewhere you cannot see. Cigars, perfume, carpet cleaner, money, midnight coffee, cold air, warm lights, and the strange electric feeling that everyone inside has agreed to believe something unbelievable might happen before sunrise. Most children see their parents' workplace on Take Your Kid to Work Day. You see yours at the hour when millionaires are losing track of time and the desert outside has gone black. Now go back 10 years. You enter the world in a hospital suite overlooking Las Vegas, because in your family even being born comes with a view. Your first visitors are not quiet relatives holding flowers. They are casino executives, old friends, entertainers, chefs, lawyers, a pit boss with hands like polished stone, and one woman in sunglasses indoors who says you have excellent timing, because you arrived the same week your father opened a new tower. Your mother is glamorous in a way that seems impossible to maintain, especially after giving birth. She can soothe a baby, approve a floral arrangement, remember the name of a blackjack dealer's wife, and tell a contractor that marble is not supposed to look tired, all before breakfast. Your father smells like expensive cologne, espresso, and late nights. He wears suits that fit like they are part of his personality, and when he walks into a room, conversations do not stop. They rearrange themselves around him. You learn early that in a casino family, normal is a word people use when they have run out of imagination. Other kids grow up knowing the sound of birds in the morning. You grow up knowing the sound of a lobby at 2 a.m. Rolling suitcases. Soft jazz. High heels clicking against polished floors. Slot machines chirping in the distance like mechanical crickets that somehow found money. Someone laughing too loudly near the elevators. Someone whispering into a phone about a reservation. Someone from security saying, "We've got it handled," with terrifying calm. At 4, you can recognize your father's head of security by the way every hallway seems safer when he appears. At 5, you know that the best restaurants have secret tables, the best magicians never explain anything, and the best hotel suites have bathrooms bigger than some apartments. At 6, you understand that adults behave differently when they think luck is watching them. They stand straighter. They talk faster. They touch their watches, their chips, their jewelry, their drinks. They become louder versions of themselves. The nervous get theatrical. The confident get religious. The rich get superstitious. The bored become alive. And all of this is happening in the building your father owns. That is a wild thing to know as a child. Not because you understand business yet. You do not. You just understand atmosphere. You understand that when your father crosses the casino floor, people make room without being asked. Dealers nod. Hosts smile. Managers lean in. Security watches the edges. The performers greet him like royalty and complain like cousins. Even the gamblers who do not know who he is can feel that somebody important has entered the room. Your childhood is not measured in school years. It is measured in openings, renovations, holiday weekends, fight nights, New Year's Eve parties, celebrity residencies, convention seasons, and the terrifying phrase, "We are fully booked." Other children learn months by weather. You learn them by occupancy. January is gamblers in sweaters and executives pretending they are here for work. March is basketball madness and grown men explaining brackets as if they have discovered mathematics. May is pool season beginning to flex. July is the desert proving it has no mercy. September is conventions. December is chandeliers, champagne, and your mother making sure the lobby looks like Christmas decided to become wealthy. Your education is not exactly traditional. Yes, you go to school. You have homework. You have teachers. You have classmates whose parents drive normal cars and sleep normal hours and do not receive phone calls because a singer locked herself out of a penthouse with a Pomeranian inside. But your real education starts after school, when your driver takes you to the service entrance and the building behind the building opens up. Because that is the first secret of growing up inside a casino. The glamour has machinery underneath it. Behind the gold doors and velvet ropes, there is a whole hidden city. Kitchens roaring. Laundry carts rolling. Florists carrying buckets of roses. Engineers with radios and tool belts. Wardrobe racks packed with sequins. Security monitors glowing in quiet rooms. Accountants walking fast. Chefs yelling with love and violence. Housekeepers moving with the discipline of soldiers. Hosts negotiating impossible requests with smiles sharp enough to cut glass. The guests see sparkle. You see the engine. And somehow, that makes the sparkle better. At 7, your father teaches you your first real lesson about the business. Not the games. Not the money. People. Casinos are not built out of cards and machines, he says, watching a crowded lobby from the mezzanine. They are built out of moods. You do not completely understand. Then he points. That man at the bar is trying to feel important. That woman near the roulette table wants to feel beautiful. That couple at the front desk wants the weekend to feel like an escape. Those conventioneers want to feel successful. That whale in the private salon wants to feel invisible and worshipped at the same time, which you will later learn is not unusual among very rich people. Your father knows this the way other fathers know baseball stats. He can read a room like a weather map. He knows when a party needs louder music, when a restaurant needs softer lighting, when a gambler needs attention, when a celebrity needs privacy, when a manager needs to stop talking, and when a guest who says everything is fine is actually 10 seconds away from becoming a problem with shoes. Lesson 1: Luxury is not expensive furniture. Luxury is making people feel like the world has been arranged around them. Lesson 2: The house does not need to shout. The house just needs to understand. Lesson 3: If someone says, "I'm not difficult," everybody should prepare. Your father does not speak like a professor. He speaks like a man who has watched fortunes arrive in limousines and leave through side doors. His wisdom sounds like it came polished by late nights, bad deals, loyal staff, impossible guests, and the kind of calm that only comes from having seen grown adults lose composure over table placement. He teaches you how to shake a hand without begging for approval. How to remember names. How to notice shoes. How to tell when someone is rich, when someone is pretending to be rich, and when someone is so rich they no longer bother looking rich. Your mother teaches you the other half of the empire. Taste. Not decoration. Taste. She knows which flowers make the lobby feel fresh and which make it feel like a funeral with a budget. She knows when a dress code is elegant and when it is just hostile. She knows the difference between a room that looks expensive and a room that makes people want to stay longer. She can look at a chandelier, narrow her eyes, and somehow make 5 adults nervous without raising her voice. If your father runs the risk, the numbers, the people, and the floor, your mother runs the spell. And that is one of the secret privileges of being born into this kind of family. You grow up around illusion. Not fake illusion. Chosen illusion. The beautiful kind. The kind that says, yes, the desert is outside. Yes, life is ordinary somewhere else. Yes, people have mortgages and dentist appointments and tired kitchens. But inside these walls, for one night, they get to wear the better version of themselves. They get to believe the table is hot, the song is for them, the sweet is waiting, the weekend is young, and maybe, just maybe, their life can become cinematic before breakfast. You do not grow up thinking reality is fixed. You grow up knowing reality has lighting. There is also the style. Let's not be childish about this. Casino families understand theater better than most billionaires understand taste. Your father's cufflinks have stories. Your mother's evening gowns deserve their own security detail. The family Christmas card looks like it was shot by someone who normally photographs perfume ads. Even the casual dinners are not casual in the way normal people mean it. They are casual, with oysters, waiters who know your grandmother's drink, and a dessert cart that makes children question whether heaven has wheels. Some families pass down recipes. Yours passes down access. Not just access to rooms. Access to worlds. The steakhouse after closing, when the chef sends out something experimental because your father asked how his mother is doing. The showroom before the curtain rises, when dancers stretch under blue light and the empty seats look like they are holding their breath. The roof at midnight, where the strip spreads out in every direction like a jewelry box that got struck by lightning. The surveillance room, where the casino becomes a quiet grid of movement, pattern, and human behavior. By 8, you know that the men and women who run your father's casino are not just employees. They are characters in an enormous, glittering machine. The pit boss with silver hair who can calm a furious gambler using only 3 words and 1 eyebrow. The hotel manager who can find a room when the computer swears no rooms exist. The maitre d', who knows every anniversary, every scandal, every favorite booth, and probably several things no government should ever ask him to repeat. The head chef who calls your father, boss, and calls everyone else something less printable. The magician who teaches you a coin trick and then refuses to tell you how he did the second one because, apparently, wonder must be protected. The singer who kisses your mother on both cheeks and smells like roses, powder, and panic. As a kid, you assume every adult knows how to be interesting. You assume every workplace has chandeliers, private elevators, hidden kitchens, armed security, and a man named Sal who can make a problem disappear by saying, "Give me 5 minutes." Then you visit a friend whose father works in insurance. His office has gray carpet. People drink water from paper cups. Nobody is wearing a headset. Nobody whispers, "The senator is early." Nobody is arguing about whether the tiger can enter through the loading dock. His father says the day was busy. You do not know how to respond. Busy? Busy is when a wedding party, a poker tournament, a broken elevator, a drunk billionaire, a missing diamond bracelet, and a surprise health inspection all happen before dinner. What he describes sounds less like a day and more like a room giving up. By 10, you start to understand that your life is not ordinary. It is not simply wealth. That is too small a word. Wealth can be quiet. Wealth can hide behind gates and private schools and clean lawns. This is not that. This is spectacle with a balance sheet. This is power wearing perfume. This is a whole building designed to make adults forget the rules of daylight. And you are growing up with a backstage pass. That changes your brain. You learn that details are not details. They are control. The carpet pattern is not random. It hides stains, guides movement, softens sound, and somehow makes people feel like leaving would be premature. The music is not background. It sets the pulse. The air is not just cold. It keeps people alert. The restaurants are not just restaurants. They are anchors. The lobby is not just a lobby. It is the first promise. Your father walks you through this like he is showing you sacred architecture. People think the casino is about chance, he says. Then he taps the railing. It's about design. That sentence stays with you. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The flower arrangements. The uniforms. The distance between the bar and the tables. The way a high-limit room feels quieter, heavier, almost velvet-lined with importance. The way a great host can make a guest feel less like a customer and more like a legend temporarily using a room key. Other children learn that stories happen in books. You learn that stories can be built into buildings. At 11, you become obsessed with the numbers. Not gambling. You are still a kid, and everybody around you makes sure you understand boundaries. You are not touching tables, placing bets, or being cute with chips. The adults are very clear about that. The floor is not a playground. The games are for grown-ups, and grown-ups are strange enough already. But the math around the casino fascinates you. The daily reports. The room rates. The comps. The restaurant covers. The show tickets. The occupancy. The percentage points adults talk about like weather fronts. You learn that a casino is not one business. It is 20 businesses wearing the same perfume. Hotel. Food. Entertainment. Retail. Nightlife. Security. Events. Real estate. Credit. Transportation. Loyalty. Marketing. Human psychology with chandeliers. Your father does not just own a place where people gamble. He owns a city that has been trained to smile. And once you understand that, everything feels even bigger. At 12, you start collecting names the way other children collect sneakers. Not celebrity names, although there are plenty of those. You collect department names. Cage. Pit. Hosts. Rooms. Security. Food and beverage. Surveillance. Entertainment. Facilities. Marketing. Each word is a door. Each door opens into another system. Each system has its own heroes, villains, legends, emergencies, and slang. You learn that a cage is not where animals go. It is where money becomes organized. You learn that a comp is not free. It is strategy wearing generosity as a tuxedo. You learn that a host is not a waiter. A great casino host is part diplomat, part therapist, part luxury concierge, part mind reader, and part professional keeper of secrets. You learn that surveillance is not suspicion. It is memory with cameras. You learn that security is not muscle. It is calm arriving before chaos becomes expensive. Every new word feels like being admitted deeper into the family religion. And the religion is not gambling. The religion is control of atmosphere. By 13, you can tell the difference between a good Saturday night and a legendary one. A good night is full restaurants, busy tables, elevators that will not stop arriving, and your father answering texts with both thumbs. A legendary night has a charge in it. You can feel it before anyone says numbers. The lobby sounds brighter. The casino floor moves faster. The hosts smile with their eyes and their teeth. The baccarat room goes quiet in a dangerous way. The nightclub line bends around the velvet ropes like a living thing. Somewhere, a performer is late. Somewhere else, a chef is threatening a lobster. A guest has requested a piano, a helicopter, and a specific kind of pillow nobody has manufactured since 1998. And somehow, the machine handles it. That is the intoxicating part. Not the chaos. The mastery. The fact that 1,000 people can all want different versions of happiness at the same time, and the building responds. More towels. More champagne. More security. More lemons. More drivers. More ice. More luck. More privacy. More spectacle. More everything. If you are a child in that world, abundance does not feel like a number. It feels like a staff radio crackling to life. It feels like your mother walking through the ballroom before a gala, adjusting one candle and improving the entire evening. It feels like your father standing at the edge of the floor, still as a statue, while 5 emergencies orbit him and somehow none of them crash. This is when you begin to understand why adults chase power. Not just for money. For the feeling of being able to make things happen. By 14, ordinary luxury starts to bore you. This is a terrible problem and nobody should feel sorry for you. But it happens. A nice hotel in another city feels unfinished because nobody at the front desk knows your breakfast order. A restaurant without a maitre d', who speaks in confidential tones seems vaguely unsupervised. A lobby without fresh flowers feels like someone forgot to cast the main character. A quiet elevator feels wrong because there is no distant music, no laughter fading behind closing doors, no possibility that when it opens, you might step into a story already in progress. You become spoiled in a very specific way. Not because you need everything expensive. Because you have seen what excellence looks like when hundreds of people agree to execute it at once. You have seen a suite turned over in minutes. A ballroom transformed overnight. A guest complaint reversed into loyalty. A disaster hidden from the public so smoothly that the guests remember the evening as flawless. That is a dangerous standard to grow up with. It makes mediocrity look personal. At 15, your father lets you work. Not really work. Not in the way the adults work. You are not managing anything. You are not touching money. You are not making decisions. You are mostly following people who are too busy to babysit you and too kind to say so. Your first job is in the hotel side, wearing a name tag that makes you feel important until a guest asks you where the restrooms are and your mind goes completely blank. You learn humility fast. The building you thought you knew as a prince suddenly becomes a maze when people expect answers. Where is the elevator to the spa? What time does the show start? Can you call my car? Why is my room not ready? Is this the line for the buffet? Do you know who I am? You learn that the answer to the last question is almost always no, but the correct facial expression is complicated. You make mistakes. You stand in the wrong place. You say, I don't know, before learning that the better phrase is, let me find out. You discover that luxury is exhausting from the service side. Beautiful, yes. Impressive, absolutely. But exhausting. Because every guest wants to feel like the exception, and the whole point of the business is to make that illusion feel effortless. At the end of your first shift, your feet hurt, your smile feels rented, and your respect for everyone in the building has multiplied by 10. Your father asks how it went. You try to sound cool. You fail. He laughs, not unkindly, and says, now you know. And you do. You know that the glamour rests on people who remember names, carry bags, fix doors, cook perfectly, clean invisibly, watch carefully, answer calmly, and absorb absurdity without letting it leak onto the carpet. That is another reason it was incredible to be raised in a casino family. Competence is not hidden there. It is everywhere. It is the woman at the front desk who can calm an angry guest without surrendering an inch. It is the dealer whose hands move like music. It is the bartender who remembers a drink from 6 months ago. It is the engineer who fixes an air conditioning issue before a bride realizes the ballroom is getting warm. It is the security officer who sees a problem forming when it is still only a posture, a glance, a wrong kind of silence. It is your mother noticing that the lighting in the VIP lounge makes everyone look slightly tired and having it changed before the weekend. It is your father hearing one sentence from a manager and knowing which 3 questions matter. You grow up surrounded by people who make difficult things look smooth. That gets into your bloodstream. Even the family fun is cinematic. You do not take normal vacations. You escape to other cities and judge them unfairly. Your father knows the owner of a restaurant in Miami. Your mother knows the designer of a hotel in New York. Someone sends fruit to the room. Someone upgrades the table. Someone says, your father called ahead, and suddenly the evening has doors inside it. But somehow, the best nights are still in Vegas. Not the public nights. The family nights. After a big event, when the casino is still glowing but your little private orbit has slowed down. Your father takes off his tie in the elevator. Your mother slips out of her heels and carries them in one hand. You end up in a back booth at 1:30 a.m. eating pancakes or steak or some strange combination of food that only makes sense in a city where time has been legally suspended. The chef comes out. The night manager drops by. A performer with stage makeup still on hugs your mother. Your father orders coffee. You are too young to be awake and too awake to care. Outside, tourists are still arriving. Inside, your family is having breakfast in the middle of the night. Try explaining that to a child from Ohio. At 16, you see your first real crisis. Not a movie crisis. A casino crisis. No dramatic music. No slow-motion explosion. Just a series of quiet problems lining up like expensive dominoes. A power issue in one part of the property. A celebrity guest furious about privacy. A private event running late. A high roller threatening to leave. A kitchen delay. A rumor moving faster than truth. The kind of night where the entire building seems to lean toward panic. And your father does not raise his voice. That is what you remember. Not the problem. His calm. He stands in a service corridor under fluorescent lights, surrounded by managers with radios, phones, clipboards, and expressions ranging from professional concern to spiritual collapse. He listens. He asks 3 questions. He makes 2 calls. He tells one person to stop explaining and start fixing. He tells another person to apologize properly, which, you learn, is not the same as saying sorry. Within an hour, guests are eating, lights are stable, the celebrity is hidden, the event has been rerouted, the high roller has been flattered into staying, and the rumor has died of loneliness. From the outside, nobody saw the storm. That amazes you. Because you realize your father's real job is not to own a casino. It is to keep fantasy from breaking. That is a much harder job. Anyone can build a shiny room. Very few people can keep the shine alive when humans arrive inside it with hunger, ego, money, fear, desire, secrets, and luggage. By 17, you understand the dark joke of Vegas. The city looks careless. It is not careless at all. It looks spontaneous. It is choreographed to the inch. It looks like luck. It runs on planning. The fountains dance on schedule. The shows hit their marks. The dealers rotate. The kitchens prep. The hosts track. The cameras watch. The housekeepers reset. The bartenders pour. The valets run. The accountants count. The executives forecast. The marketing team studies desire like archaeologists digging through the future. Nothing this wild survives by accident. That becomes one of the deepest lessons of your childhood. Freedom is usually built by disciplined people you do not see. The guest feels free because someone else handled the structure. The party feels effortless because someone made 87 decisions before the first glass of champagne appeared. The magic feels magic because professionals murdered chaos backstage. You start noticing this everywhere. In restaurants. In airports. In concerts. In businesses. In families. You can feel when nobody is really in charge, and it makes you uneasy. Because you were raised by people who knew that a room without control eventually becomes a problem with lighting. At 18, your relationship with the casino changes. You are no longer just the owner's child wandering through the kingdom with wide eyes. You are old enough to understand inheritance as pressure. Not just money. Expectation. People have watched you grow up. They remember you dropping ice cream in the lobby. They remember you hiding under your mother's table during a charity gala. They remember you mispronouncing concierge with the confidence of a tiny emperor. Now they look at you differently. Like maybe one day you will matter here. That is thrilling. And uncomfortable. Because being born near power is not the same as being ready to hold it. You begin to see the weight your father carries. The payroll. The reputation. The debt. The licensing. The partnerships. The staff who depend on the property. The guests who expect miracles. The city that respects winners and forgets failures with astonishing speed. Vegas does not care that your last decade was impressive. Vegas asks what you are opening next. That is the beauty and brutality of it. The skyline is never finished. The city keeps adding lights as if darkness personally offended it. And your father belongs to that tribe of people who look at an empty lot and do not see sand. They see rooms. Restaurants. Stages. Revenue. Jobs. Entrances. A lobby. A name in lights. A reason for strangers to fly across the country and spend a weekend feeling larger than their lives. Some people inherit land. You inherit imagination with operating costs. Some people are taught to avoid risk. You are taught to price it, staff it, insure it, light it beautifully, and invite people inside. And maybe that is the best part of all. Being the child of a casino owner gives you front row seats to ambition with sequins on. The adults around you are not daydreaming. They are building dreams with permits, payroll, marble, talent, surveillance, debt, service standards, and very expensive carpets. They do not just want to be rich. They want to create a place that bends reality for everyone who enters it. When they win, the whole building feels it. When they lose, they regroup before breakfast. When a night goes perfectly, they do not stare at it for too long. They review the numbers, fix the weak spots, compliment the right people, and prepare for the next wave. Because the casino never really ends. It only changes shifts. Years later, someone from outside Vegas will ask what it was like. They will expect you to talk about money. Or gambling. Or celebrities. Or wild stories. And yes, there were wild stories. Plenty. Stories involving missing wedding rings, impossible room requests, gamblers with lucky socks, singers refusing to perform because the lighting was emotionally inaccurate, billionaires who traveled with their own pillows, and one unforgettable night when a very important guest demanded a live flamingo for reasons nobody felt brave enough to explore. But that is not what you remember first. You remember the feeling of entering through the back halls and seeing the hidden world that made the visible world possible. You remember your mother standing in a ballroom before the guests arrived, turning an empty room into a promise. You remember your father in a dark suit, watching the casino floor like a captain watches weather. You remember chandeliers reflected on polished marble. Stacks of fresh towels in service corridors. The soft thunder of luggage wheels. The strange holiness of an empty showroom before the lights came up. The smell of steak, flowers, perfume, coffee, money, and desert air. You remember the staff cafeteria at midnight, where the real stories were better than the official ones. You remember chefs swearing beautifully. Dealers stretching their hands before a shift. Hosts speaking into phones like they were negotiating peace treaties. Security moving so quietly that trouble often changed its mind. You remember New Year's Eve from a private balcony, watching the strip explode in fireworks while your father checked his phone and your mother said, "For once, look up." You remember thinking that other cities slept because they lacked commitment. Most of all, you remember the scale. The beautiful excess of it. The belief that life could be designed larger. A bigger entrance. A better table. A brighter room. A stranger weekend. A lobby that makes someone stop walking for half a second because wonder has physically interrupted them. That kind of childhood does something to you. It makes ordinary ambition feel a little underdressed. It makes you suspicious of people who think fun is not serious. It teaches you that pleasure is an industry, beauty is labor, luck is branding, and fantasy has to be managed by people with spreadsheets. It makes you understand that rich is not the same as powerful. Powerful is when people enter a place you created and become different for a while. Braver. Louder. More elegant. More reckless. More hopeful. More themselves, or at least more the version of themselves they came to Vegas to visit. And it teaches you something even deeper. That every dazzling thing has a backstage. Every magical night has someone counting glasses. Every unforgettable weekend has someone checking elevators. Every fantasy has rent, payroll, maintenance, law, timing, taste, psychology, and a person somewhere in a suit asking why the lobby flowers look sad. So no, it was not normal. It was better than normal. Not because it was perfect. Because it was alive. Because your childhood came with velvet ropes, secret elevators, desert sunsets, midnight pancakes, famous strangers, hidden corridors, impossible requests, and adults who knew how to make the world sparkle on command. Because before you were old enough to understand margins or licensing or the mathematics behind the house, you already understood something more useful. Life is not only something that happens to people. It is something that can be staged. Built. Lit. Staffed. Designed. Protected. And made unforgettable. Once you have seen a casino wake up at dusk, once you have watched the signs flicker on and the fountains rise and the first wave of guests step through the doors believing the night might change them, the world never really returns to regular size. That is why it was incredible to be the child of a Las Vegas casino owner. Not because every night was lucky. Because every night had possibility. Because you grew up inside a machine that turned desire into architecture. Because your lullabies were elevator bells, distant applause, jazz from the lounge, and your father's voice saying, make sure they feel taken care of. Because while other kids were told not to dream too big, you were raised in a city that put dreams on billboards, wrapped them in gold light, charged a resort fee, and still somehow made people thank you for the privilege. And because somewhere deep in you, long after childhood ended, you still carry that first lesson of Vegas. The world is not waiting to become magical. Someone has to open the doors.